All right, guys, back here on Crossover Thursday. Thank you so much for starting your new year here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm David Drogemeyer of the Locked On Chargers podcast. That is your boy Q of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Always a great time. Before we get into these keys to victory for each team, I got to remind you that Crossover Thursday is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So, I am the Chargers are the away team, so I'll go ahead and kick things off here with the keys to victory. So for me, the keys to victory are pretty simple. Number one, prepare like it matters because you just don't know what's going to happen. So that's number one. Number two, win the turnover battle. This is something that's been very important to any game that's been played in the National Football League. You got to win the turnover battle. If you don't, you're probably going to lose. And for me, the last one is player specific. I usually don't do this on crossovers, but when the player is as dynamic as Brock Bowers, then it's do everything you can to stop Brock Bowers. Nobody's been able to, so we got to try to limit his effectiveness. Now, the Chargers won't know really if they have anything to play for in this game until Saturday night's game with the Bengals and the Steelers conclude. If the Bengals win, then the Chargers have everything to play for. What is that? The 5th seed in the playoffs, which would give them a date with the Houston Texans in Houston, which I think if you look at the AFC playoff picture objectively, they're a team that's kind of sputtering towards the finish. And so that's a team that the Chargers, I think, would very much like to play in the first round of the playoffs because I feel like they would feel like they can get that victory. So if that happens, then yes, I expect the Chargers to go out there full force and go out there and try to get that win. If they don't, then I would expect to see some starters get rested because there's just nothing that the game means to the Chargers at that point. So I feel like that's probably going to be the game plan. But you got to prepare like the game matters. You can't expect the Bengals to lose or win. You got to worry about the Raiders. You can't overlook them because like I said, I'm sure the Raiders would love nothing more than to spoil the Chargers' chances at getting that 5th seed if it's up for grabs, or just finishing their season strong with a 3-game winning streak. So, second thing, win the turnover battle. The Chargers' turnover, their turnover margin is fantastic. It's plus 11. So they've done a very, very good job of limiting the turnovers and getting those turnovers all season long. The Raiders, on the other hand, are minus 15. So they just have had a really hard time keeping hold of the football. Most of that's been quarterback interceptions, which with Aiden O'Connell out there, he's a little bit more protective of the football, a little bit more careful. He doesn't really cough it up as much as, let's say, a Gardner Minshew had throughout the season. So that's definitely something that's going to be important to this game. And then Brock Bowers, like I said, he's an absolute maniac. So you got to try to do your best to try to limit his effectiveness because he has the type of talent to take over a football game. But for the Raiders, what would you say is the keys to victory to go out and finish the 2024 season out with a bang?
Yeah, well, that's what the Raiders are going to want to do. Antonio Pierce in particular, because nobody knows what's going to happen come Monday, right? Nobody knows if Mark Davis and Tom Brady and company are going to decide, yeah, he's the right guy to be the head coach, or no, we've got to do better. We've got to improve it. We've got to bring in another guy. So all he cares about is wins. And the Raiders have gotten 2 wins in a row. They've gotten that because they haven't turned the ball over, right? All season long, they've been terrible, like you mentioned, at turning the ball over. They were the team that didn't create turnovers, and they were the team that turned it over all the time. They were the worst in the league. And so the last couple of weeks, they've been able to cause some turnovers and recover some fumbles and get a couple interceptions. So that's been a positive. If they're going to finish this off with a 3-game winning streak, they have to create a couple turnovers, right? And they cannot turn the ball over. When they turn over the ball, they lose. It's so funny. Jacoby Myers told me after Week 16 game, he said, "Hey, it's no coincidence. We don't turn the ball over, we win games, right? It's when we turn the ball over, we lose." And you said it, right? I mean, that's something that goes with every team in the league. You lose the turnover battle, most likely you're going to lose the game. So that's something that's definitely got to be like key number one is to make sure that happens. Key number two, like I said, it's been evaluation season. These guys that are being evaluated, these guys that are kind of having their last audition, they need to continue to play strong, right? And I'm talking about Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback, right? Is he or isn't he going to be the guy moving forward? Or is he going to be a guy that maybe is a bridge quarterback? I mean, he's got to prove who he can be. He's got to go out there and play mistake-free football, and he looked really good last week against the Saints, even though that's a beat-up Saints team. It's not full strength or anything. They didn't have their starting quarterback, but he looked pretty good. So can he add to that? Can he continue to stack and do that? And it's funny, Amir Abdullah, the running back, he's been in the league 10 years. He had his first 100-yard
That's
game.
crazy. 10
in
years.
141 games. He's been in the league that long and never had a 100-yard game, and he had it last week. So I think they're going to try to continue to run the rock with Amir Abdullah and see what he can do. And they're all banged up in the running back room anyway. So I think that that'll be something that you'll try to see, or you'll see them try to have a heavy emphasis on, is the run game. And, again, defensively, just these guys that, like I said, that you might not have heard of, the Isaiah Palomaus, the Kalavon Chasons, the Jonah Laulus, guys like that. They just got to go out there and put their best foot forward. DeCam Richardson, right? Just go out there and finish off strong. Just give that maximum effort that they've been giving. I don't think that that's going to be a question. And, leave it all on the grass. I mean, that's all you can do, right? I mean, at the end of the game, when the clock says 0-0-0, the season's done. Right. And so you might not be back. So you might as well leave everything that you got out there on the grass. And if you're a coaching staff, you better, throw out the kitchen sink at the Chargers, because you might not be back in the booth or on the sideline in 2025. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a busy offseason for the Raiders. I actually know it's going to be a busy offseason. So these guys have one more crack at it to have some fun at home in front of their home fans. So go out there and do the best that they can. And that's all they can really do, is just leave it on the grass.
Regardless if this game has any meaning for the Chargers or the Raiders, it doesn't have to, because these two teams don't like each other and they never have. It's going to be a physical battle no matter what.